Hey guys, Lytane here, and today I'm going to be having a look at a movie that no one asked me to review, that no one knows about, and no one cares about. So why am I doing this review? Because I watched the movie and now I just want to talk about it. So today I'm going to say if Ice Pirates, the movie, yes that's what it's called, is worth it or not. Ice Pirates is a sci-fi comedy movie that was released in 1984, which tells the story of a far-off and distant future of sorts, where all the water in the galaxy has dried up, leaving all of the people suffering. This has turned water into a very important commodity, and anyone that has it has power and influence. It's like the new money. So far, the galaxy only has a single planet that has water left on it, so it is highly guarded. The water is then frozen into ice and transported to other planets to melt down and use as they need it, which is supposed to be distributed to the planet equally and fairly, but usually the rich keep it and profit off of it. So let's meet our main characters, who are the Ice Pirates. They are exactly how they sound. Space pirates that just steal ice, sell it for profit, and keep some of it for their own personal use. And you start the movie with them attacking one of the ships which has ice on it. They seem to be doing well until the alarm goes off. They go to escape, but Jason, the main character and captain of the ship, goes back to flirt with a princess on the ship. This probably wasn't a good idea, and he and some of his crew are caught and put into a cage for slavery. Instead of being castrated and turned into slaves, which is usually the case, Jason and Roscoe are saved by the princess as she intervenes in the slave process and saves them. They steal a ship together, and it's here that the princess tells our heroes about her goals. Apparently, there is a fabled planet in the system called the seventh planet, which is full of water, but it's a myth. That is until the princess's father claims that he discovered the planet only to go missing, and this is what she is after, to find her father and the planet full of water. With lots of swashbuckling, jokes, ships, and robots, we could only be watching Ice Pirates. Do. That was a horrible joke. I don't even know why I did that. I'm so sorry. The original idea for this film was that it was going to be a much bigger and grander film, like a space opera, you know, like Star Wars or Star Trek. The only problem being that the studio decided to cut their funding. Originally, this movie had $20 million to go for it, and then they cut it down to 8, and they ended up spending 9. That is less than half of the budget. And because of this, the studio also decided that they didn't want it to be a really serious movie. They wanted it to be a comedy, so that's why we got the sci-fi comedy aspect. Now, when you see the intro for this movie and you hear some of the things that they're talking about, the serious elements are still around. The fact that there is only one planet worth of water, the fact that there has to be pirates and thievery and skullduggery and all that kinds of stuff in order to just live. The fact that water, which is an essential thing that everybody needs and everybody needs to drink fairly often to stay alive, is so rare that it has got slums and it's got people doing bad stuff, and then the rich keep getting richer because they can drink. It is a lot of serious undertone, but the majority of the movie doesn't really focus on that. It just decides to sort of, it tells you that it's there, but it doesn't take itself too seriously. The first thing that you'll notice about this movie is that it is most certainly made in the 80s, from the color scheme, the costumes, the sounds, and even the feel of the movie. Now that isn't a bad thing at all, and it made me want to check out the movie in the first place. Even with a much smaller budget, I would hazard a guess and say that most of it went to set design and costume design, because they are both actually pretty impressive. They have this dodgy sci-fi 80s look to them, but honestly they have such charm that I just can't fault it. Each character has their own look and style, and each location looks different from the last, with this dystopian future aspect just kind of there. Even the robots, which are just guys in suits, have a stupid appeal to them, and it just catches my eye every time I look at it. I honestly think that most of the budget went to the set design and the costumes, because it definitely did not go to the writing department, because oh dear lord, the dialogue here is just so poorly written. You can tell that it was a serious film turned into a comedy, because it just feels like there's been things just cut out and things just rewritten. When the intro happens, it is well written and it sets up the story enough, but after that, these random parts of just exposition just get thrown at you. And then there's other things that don't have any kind of context, which are supposed to either tell you the story or be funny, but because they don't have context, they fall flat on both accounts. The characters themselves are pretty shallow, even though they are fairly competently acted. All of the main characters do a good enough job in the roles. It's just the dialogue and things that they're saying to each other which just does not do anything good for the movie. A good example of this is the start of the film with the pirates. As they're trying to take the ice from another ship, it is just done in a very messy way. I understand from the intro that these guys must be the pirates, but I honestly don't know who they are or what they're doing or why anything is happening. And then further on it just becomes a talk to this person to advance the quest kind of story. Talk to this person, then they have a fight. Talk to another person, then they have a fight. It just keeps going on and around in circles for the majority of the film. The fights, though, can honestly be pretty entertaining, even if they are a little bit messy at times as well, just because of the high intensity and insanity that is on the screen. There is a lot of sword fights and gun fights and robot fights with varying quality, so at least it kept me entertained throughout the whole film. Some of the fights, though, are poorly shot, and that sucks, especially when I could see the potential for a better fight right there. Like the time when Maida has a fight on the pirate home base with these swords that can cut through pretty much anything. It lasts like 3 moves and that's about it, and then it's over. It could have been so much more. Also throughout the film, a few characters get limbs and parts of their body cut off, and everyone just is sort of nonchalant about that. One guy in that Maida fight gets his arm chopped off and he's just kind of like, meh. At the beginning, the main character gets his toes cut off and I was like, wow, that's a pretty serious blow, but that's never brought up again. I guess his toes were crumpled back in his shoe, or maybe he, just got new toes later. I don't know. It's a little bit messy, and I don't know if it was done for comedy or just because they wanted to do a bit more action in the sequences. I don't know, even to this day. It's really frustrating. So this movie's called a sci-fi comedy, and I fully see all of the sci-fi in there. That's lots of sci-fi, but the comedy, the comedy honestly falls flat. It is not funny at all. A lot of the jokes are very 80s, very dated. They're not so much references, like referential humor. It's just poorly written humor. One of the jokes that they talk about is space herpes. And they fully set this up, and they go through quite a lot to set up this joke, and then it's just space herpes, and I'm like, herpes? I guess that's the punchline. What's more is that this joke comes back near the end of the film as well, because whilst everybody's sitting around for dinner, the herpes just explode out, because that's the name of the alien. Yeah, space herpes. It explodes out of their chicken, and I guess it's like a parody of Alien, maybe? I'm not sure. And everyone's like, oh my god, what is that? It's just like, oh, don't worry, it's just space herpes. The ship has herpes. I'm like, wow, not only is this a bad joke, but you use this bad joke twice. And what does the herpes do in the film? Nothing. It kind of bites Roscoe on the back. That's it. So, it's just, there's so many comedic moments in this movie that just weren't funny. When they're becoming slaves, there's a machine which, they have to get all primed and primed to be a slave, and the guy that's going to be shaving them, he's like got a razor and he's all old and he shakes. So I'm like, oh, okay, I can see the humor in that, but it wasn't funny. And then after that, there's a big chomper which turns them into eunuchs essentially, and I'm like, that's not very funny. It doesn't really make sense, but okay, if that's how they want to do that, fine. So let's talk about the climax of this movie, and by God if it's not entertaining, when the pirates and the evil Templars enter a time warp in order to find the 7th planet. In this warp, time is distorted, and it starts to act very, very quickly. So every minute is a few days, and it gets faster and faster as they go further in the time warp. So the bad guys board the ship during the warp, and the final battle starts, and it is pretty strange. As the fight goes on, each of the characters starts aging at an alarming rate, and they change their clothes, their hair, their makeup to reflect what's going on. They get really old by the end of it. One of the characters even got pregnant just before they entered the time warp and gives birth and raises her son during the time warp, and then he fights in the battle as well. It is such an interesting idea, and it is handled pretty well in the film, and I enjoyed it. It was very creative, very well done, and it was entertaining, something that I can't say for the majority of this film. But then the last 2 minutes of the film just had to ruin it. They get out of the time warp and everybody is now back to themselves, so everything that they did during the time warp didn't happen, I guess, but they still have all the memories. It's kind of vague, but whatever. And as the end of the time warp, they see the 7th planet, and it's just that. You see the 7th planet and the movie ends. There is no epilogue. They do not go down to the planet. They do not see if it's got good water. They don't do anything. There's nothing. They don't even find out if the princess's father is still alive on the planet. They don't try and get the water back and save the other people. They don't be selfish. There's nothing. It's just sort of like, here's the 7th planet, and that's it. In my opinion, I think that Ice Pirates is not worth it. Honestly, the set design and the costume design was very interesting, and that final fight scene was definitely entertaining, but it's just the other, say, like 80 minutes of the film which just was not entertaining. I could not sit through it very easily, and I'm the kind of guy that can sit through a lot of different movies because I enjoy bad movies. I can sit through them because I can find some nugget, something that I find interesting. But until the climax hit, I really didn't find much interesting in this movie. There were certain points and times in the movie that I thought something might be good or something made me smile, and I'm like, yes, yes, yes. It's all gone now. Like, there is a robot which keeps falling apart throughout the whole movie. It's a silly little slapstick thing, but I enjoyed that just for what it was, just like a silly bit of slapstick. And of course, by the end of the film, the robot is now amazing and it doesn't fall apart. It was one of those jokes which was reoccurring. It wasn't very good, but at least it made me smile. Honestly, if this was done in the more serious way with the bigger budget, then maybe this movie could have been something that I would have recommended as a new Star Wars or a new hidden gem in that kind of sci-fi genre. But as it stands, don't watch it. Maybe watch the final fight scene on YouTube or something. Yeah, watch it. Well, it's on Netflix, so just watch it on Netflix, I guess, for the final fight scene. That's all you need. You don't even need context, honestly. It's just like good guys fighting bad guys as a time warp. That's all you need. Don't watch it, guys. Don't watch it. So tell me what you thought about Ice Pirates. I know nobody is going to comment below because nobody has seen this film. I don't think even the people that worked on the film has seen this film. Honestly, it's definitely one of the most obscure things I've ever talked about on this channel, and I'm sorry. I just wanted to talk about it because I saw it. Maybe tell me some other cool, interesting sci-fi movies that I may not have heard of, especially ones that were made in, say, the 80s and 90s. You know, more of the underground ones that, you know, just the ones that I would never have heard of that are good. By God, I need a good old crappy. I need a good crappy old. Why did I say crappy? Just tell me, and then don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Bye. But usually the rich keep it and prof off of it. Prof off it. Prof off it. Prof off it. Space pirates that steal ice. Sell it for profit. Oh, I can't say profit today. Profit.